So welcome everybody to the third week of Eat Local Month. We're really excited to, have our third webinar here. We have Robert Bogatin from Good Business Colorado and Resilient Restaurants, and Blaine Bailey from In the Weeds, who also was one of the chefs for your meal tonight. So he prepared the entree as part of In the Weeds. And I hope you're enjoying all of the food at the moment. We had an awesome lineup with dessert from the Ore House, the appetizer from Manna, and the Bookcase and Barber with the drinks, in addition to In the Weeds. So for this third week, we are going to be talking about mental health in the food industry. And so both Blaine and Robert have experience working in the restaurant world and also work closely with, farmers and local food producers. So they're really knowledgeable about the kinds of stresses and different dynamics at play for those that work in the food industry. And especially here in Durango, where we have such a high population of food workers, it's really an important thing to be talking about, especially in the time of COVID. So we're really excited to kind of hear what they have to say and learn more about this topic.
All right. Thanks, Emily. And Robert, do you want to kind of introduce yourself a little bit more, kind of more detail with Resilient Restaurants?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here in week 3. My name's Robert. I am the director of a nonprofit program under Good Business Colorado called Resilient Restaurants. And you can find out more information about us at resilientrestaurants.org. But in short, we are a peer-driven group of dining establishment owners and operators and our whole ecosystem. And we're values-driven, so we're looking for ways to maximize our environmental sustainability, and we really care about social equity and creating a different model for food service altogether. There's a lot of broken aspects about it. And right now, this year, we've experienced, the acceleration and the illumination of a lot of those broken aspects. And we can work together to share best practices and elevate the performance of our workforce and our companies and our communities. So, restaurants play such a large role in our culture that there's so much overlap between the interactions of people in our society and gathering around food. There's so much opportunity that we can have dialogue and to begin to really push the needle and make better decisions. So what we see, just to begin about talking about mental wellness, there's always been kind of the restaurant lifestyle and, odd hours and, the stresses of being, I kind of look at it in 2 different ways. There's obviously the owner operators and the kind of perspective of that side of it. And then there's, the workforce and that side of it. And with mental wellness, I think what we're seeing now is, a lot of the things that were already in place in the culture and lifestyle of food service can get accelerated because we're more stressed out. There's more anxiety. We're dealing with a lot of issues. So from the unemployment aspects and, navigating the public safety aspects and interacting with customers, there's that whole piece. And then of course, if you have anybody, who's had an illness or troubles getting through this year and you're taking care of loved ones or having issues with your kids being in school and working on their education, there's so many things that are adding to the weight of, the daily pressures of people in food service. And that's coupled with, the essential idea that their number one job is to put on a smile and give you a great experience when you go out, and you want that kind of, interactivity to be on this great energetic level with all the servers and bartenders and whatnot that you interact with. And, I think it's important for everyone, owners and customers, to keep in mind there's kind of like a double down of pressure that a lot of them are going through. So what I've seen be most important, we did a mini webinar series about mental wellness with some different owners and employees. And the top points that came out of it were that there's an increased awareness and need for self-care. And that's both from like both operators and employees both recognize like, this is an opportunity for me to take a look at my lifestyle, to kind of redesign, what my priorities are. Their hours have shifted, their job descriptions may have shifted. A lot of people have had to step up and do whatever is necessary to keep their businesses going. And so, making sure that we take time to take care of ourselves and slow down and, whatever it is that gives you the downtime and an ability to regenerate and just kind of get grounded again, those things are important. What is new is that restaurant owners generally aren't responsible for the mental wellness of their employees. It's not, people's privacy is their privacy. If you come and you do your job, anything related to your job is kind of within the purview of your boss. But aside from that, your personal life's personal. But now more than ever, I think there's this, I think it's positive when it is more open and transparent and owners and employees can begin to actually talk openly about what they're going through a little bit more personally, so that you can make business decisions that support people. Because the other thing that's coming out is the more employee-centric policies and putting the employees first, or at least on equal footing when you're considering your public safety measures, how you're going to reopen in terms of capacity, and just the process flow and layout of your new dining setup. There's so many different variables with it, but just allowing the employees to have a little bit more of a stake in the business decisions that are being made, I think is happening more and more, which is great. And I really hope that the dialogue increases, that we can build trust between owners and employees by really just being honest with whatever we're fearful about or freaked out about, or, the highs and lows that we have during the day and the things that we have to learn about how to connect with our customers now. And, it's a masked world, so it's different. And I just hope it facilitates, that honesty, because there's a lot of mistrust in food service, and it makes it hard when people aren't communicating openly. What else? Kesed Wellness is, a partner of ours that is just something I wanted to mention. Something that is new is also, we hear a lot about food redistribution in the food service, but there are actually, services available that are making affordable mental wellness sessions to owners and workers. And there are now groups coming out and specifically catering to food service because they know they've either, been in that lifestyle themselves or put themselves through school that way, or they have a connection. So many people have had a food service job at some point. So, there's a lot of people that are aware of how hard it is, and especially now to keep on that smile and stay happy, with everything that's going on. So, I feel like I've covered a pretty good amount of stuff there. Let's open up the conversation. I'd be interested, Blaine, in any comments you have about that.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. And just so you guys know, like, we've been working with Robert in the weeds. We are a nonprofit here in Durango that is a support system for restaurant hospitality staff, and our primary focus is on the mental health of our staff here in town. But along with mental health comes physical health, financial health. Now we're obviously seeing social health, not being able to go out and hang out with our friends and whatnot. So that's kind of where our focus is. And I was a sous chef over at Carver Brewing Company here in Durango for 5 years, and that's kind of where some of this got kickstarted, this discussion. Me and our co-founder John Rowe, who's now a licensed counselor, whenever he was working for me at Carver's, we lost one of our prep chefs, Donnie Grotz, to overdose. And we had been working many weeks with him and starting that conversation and whatnot. And still, there's not always success in that. And that was a big heartbreaker and hit us really close to home. And that's kind of whenever I opened up that discussion with John Rowe, like, hey man, we should, whenever you graduate for mental health, like therapy for chefs, that's one thing we started discussing. And then we kind of put it off for a little bit. And then with the passing of Anthony Bourdain, that was a huge pivot point for the industry because he was this idol. I idolized him. And seeing that this lifestyle, this rock star lifestyle we all live, is not sustainable. And I think a lot of restaurant folks are starting to see that now. They're getting into their 50s and 60s, and what do they have to show for it? Is it an alcohol addiction? Is it 3 divorces or 2 failed restaurants? There's these things that are starting to hit us all, and it's not sustainable. So they're wanting to. I think we're especially seeing this movement now, like how do we support our teams and prevent, like we love the industry so much. We love what we do, but if we keep it up this way, it's not going to work out. So we need to have these new interventions and start working with our teams and our workforce on taking care of themselves, that self-care, and, whether that is mental health or physical health, financial health. So that comes, down to so many different things. And like Robert was saying, what I really liked was the communication within the workplace, talking about, hey, it's your privacy. We don't have to talk about that. Keep it at home. You get in here and you're here to work. You're not here to talk about your issues. But that's kind of unavoidable. In these restaurants, you work so many hours, so many long hours and tight. It becomes your family. You work, 7 days a week, sometimes 80 hours a week with the same crew day in and day out. And they do become your family. And you eventually have like the same issues that you have with your bloodline family. And so it is serious. Like you're gonna have these discussions eventually. And that's kind of where we want to help people learn how to have those discussions constructively and actually make progress, rather than like, hey man, I don't know how to handle that, let's go drink a bottle of whiskey. So teaching them these positive outlets to deal with certain issues, whether it's, I'm having issues with my manager, or my girlfriend's aggravated me for working 80 hours a week. So how do I handle this? Like working on those positive ways to have these conversations and communicate. It all comes down to communication. And so we're trying to help with these opportunities for these folks to gain new knowledge, new strategies for dealing with certain situations. And that's, like, if you look at it from the outside, why don't these businesses offer these services, and a lot of these restaurants are struggling constantly. Can't tell you how many times that I've worked right alongside the owner. They've had to come in and do the dishes that day because a dishwasher called out. They're constantly there in the trenches with us, in the weeds, and working alongside us. And they want to create these better environments for their workforce, but they don't have the fiscal means to do so, or they don't have the time, the energy. They're constantly just trying to keep the business running. And now more than ever with the pandemic, it's putting that much more stress. They're having to work on these special loans. What's tomorrow going to be? We just had 3 restaurants shut down this week due to someone testing positive for COVID. And I don't know how they're going to be able to handle the financial. That's just another huge loss. They might have to be closed down for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And so it's just this whole nother layer of weight on people's shoulders, and it is quite the challenge. And so that's where we're trying to come in and help them through these times. And even before, we were building this before COVID hit, and saw the importance, and thankfully we've been around during this time, and just being there for folks. And I can't stress how important it is. And especially in our community of Durango, we have 160 restaurants. We're estimated to have probably 3,000 people within the workforce. That's almost a quarter of our population here. And so someone probably works in the restaurants or hotels. And it is it's a big part of our community. And kind of like what Robert was saying, like we go into these restaurants or order the takeout to have this amazing food for us, and it brightens our days. Like it can potentially change our days around. You go in for the atmosphere, like to loosen up, and they provide this amazing service to you while they're still just having to bury their own stuff down. And so kind of the one thing is, how can you take care of someone else if you can't take care of yourself? And that's where we want to help these individuals. It gets back to the individuals taking care of you, the community, through their food, service, cocktail, or drinks, and atmosphere, so they can better provide that for which you go there for. So it's big, and it means a lot to me. I've been in the restaurant industry for 12 years, and I've had my own issues with it in the past, and have been bitter, have been burnt out, but I still love it and still always go back to it. Cooking your entree tonight was amazing. Getting to be in the commercial kitchen again was so much fun, and I hope you enjoy it. It was a good time cooking that and hanging out at the Mana Soup Kitchen with Shannon, who is a big proponent for all this, and just an amazing human being up there. But yeah, so what we're kind of talking about is, how can you as a guest in a restaurant support this? And obviously there's always the donations route and whatnot, and taking care of your guest or your server and bartender and chefs. But it comes down to, like, whenever I would be on the line just getting slammed night after night, every once in a while there would be a guest come up to the window and say, "Hey guys, like, that was amazing. My meal was awesome, delicious." And we would immediately see a turnaround, of positivity along the line. Like, people would just bust their butts that much harder. They're like, "Dude, that was awesome. Like, that was awesome. That was better than a $5 tip." It was amazing, just getting someone to come in and say, "Thank you. Like, that was the best meal I've had in a while," or whatever it was, and because we don't hear that much, especially in the back of house. But I mean, even servers and bartenders, just saying, giving that true, human connection of, we're here and we support you, and we know it's hard right now, and I want to thank you for what you're doing and what is going on. So there's, just that's one big thing that I ask community members to do, and help folks just know that they're there. We're here to support you, and we're here to listen, or those types of things. So I don't know, do you have anything else to say about that, Robert?
Well, I actually did want to ask Blaine, for folks in the community who might know either food workers or folks that own restaurants, how can they plug in with your resources?
So we have our website, and way to contact us through that, and through donations. What we're providing right now, we have our peer-to-peer support groups that we go through, and that's we meet 4 times a month, first and third Mondays and first and third Thursdays, to talk about the stuff. And then we have also been providing yoga. It's a little bit on pause right now, just due to COVID and finding space in the warmer and the colder weather coming up on us. But we have other activities planned. I've been working with Purgatory to get ski passes to members, and to get up there and just get out and enjoy the snow. So there's many things we're looking to do. We did a raft trip in July down the Animas, just a quick 2-hour trip, and had several folks participate in that, and still COVID friendly, COVID safe. Uh, but there's a lot of things that we want to do once things are safer to open and whatnot, and providing these resources. So kind of where our main focus is that restaurant and hospitality staff, and for the community, it's that community awareness. And we have a lot of info on our website, but there is some other amazing Chefs with Issues, which the Robert was bringing up, Chow, the culinary and hospitality outreach and wellness up there on the Front Range. Their old executive director, I believe, started this website, Chefs with Issues, Kat Kinsman. And then, we're looking, like he was mentioning, Kesed Wellness. They have a really awesome program up there for the Front Range. And that's potentially, I'm talking with San Juan Basin Public Health, and potentially, building a program similar to what they have, and maybe working with Kesed if we can get them down here to our area too. So there's lots of things in the works, and obviously a little bit slower moving now, but I think just talking about it and being aware of our teams and the people who take care of us. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so helpful. And Robert, I think it seemed like you had something to add.
Well, I can always add something to the conversation. I'm just curious. It's kind of rhetorical, but I'm curious in a sense of I'm interested to see how this is going to play out. But you might be able to answer this question. It's just the difference between the receptivity of owners and the worker. Like, In the Weeds has a great model, and you're providing this kind of third-party community service and be a resource. And then I'm just curious how effective it will be to help facilitate owners and workers talking together, or, if it's kind of a bot, obviously you're working to get the workers together to support each other, to do these activities, and to have access to resources that are going to help them, be able to take care of themselves. Yeah. Obviously, you're allowing owners to participate in the activities too. I'm just curious, do you see a difference between outreach in the community and working with owners versus workers? And is more the third, maybe the fact that In the Weeds is there, that presence, that third party, or moderator, or whatever kind of role you want to identify with it, that actually might be really helpful to break down the barriers that in the walls of the restaurant, you're not going to get people having honest conversations necessarily. What do you think that we have to have a different approach?
Well, so it was funny. So we started doing our testing our groups a year and a half ago now. And that was a discussion we were going to have. Like me and John was like, hey, how are we going to handle if an employee, a staff member shows up, and then their boss is there too, and they have beef, Right. We're like, what if this happens? That's a potential. And we kind of discussed like, all right, we'll just kind of cross that bridge when we get there. And literally the first meeting we had, it was the owner and operator of the restaurant and half of his staff there. And I was like, well, all right, we're crossing the bridge. And it turned out great. Like it was really amazing. Like you said, like those barriers were kind of removed, and like we were in this, it's a safe space. Everything's confidential. We don't, what stays in the group stays in the group. And we did see like, and from, their personal statements, like improvements within their work environment, and having that communication open up and like being able to talk about it. And like sometimes they would save the conversations for groups, like, hey, we really need to talk about this, but the restaurant isn't the place to talk about it. like we don't have the time to, or, we're slammed, so we can't talk about how you pissed me off last night, like, so it was really cool to see that. And the, to bring out the big words, like the emotional intelligence of people and like coming together in these groups and talking about things. We had a local counselor here, Rowan Blaisdell, who has 13 years of restaurant experience. He was kind of our mediator and facilitator there for the first year. And, eventually he's like, dude, like, I haven't even had to do much. Like, everybody talks about it and they bring their stuff to the table and we kind of all work it out together. And that was, talking about that is like, whenever I've been discussing this with owners and managers and everything, like, dude, everybody's just going to go there and vent and talk crap about their business or their employer. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, it might start out that way, but we come back with solutions. What are you going to do to better this relationship with your manager or with your coworker or whatever it is? Like, we have to talk about the problem, yes, for a little bit, but then we go towards the solution. And having several people in the group to discuss their point of views on what has worked for them in the past, because it's different for everybody in every situation. But so it's been really cool, like, kind of taking down that negative stigma of mental health, and looking at it in this new light, because that's one of the biggest challenges. And hey, we're going to talk about the feels, and people don't want to do that. And so once they get into these groups, or it might take a little bit to open up, or I've been trying to work with folks and just be there in these other ways to start these discussions. And it's just being very versatile and flexible on how to begin those discussions. And yeah, so there's a lot. I'm like you, Robert. Like, I can throw 10 more things in there.
Yeah, but I mean, that's so helpful to know for our community. And as for me as a consumer, I have worked in food service, but mostly back of house. So I haven't had that direct face-to-face interaction with consumers in the same way that a lot of people do. And I know that as a customer now, being on the other side, I'm always mindful of that and trying to, be as supportive as I can be. But it's so helpful to hear that perspective that, everybody needs that support. We're all kind of going through the craziness of this time together, and put on top of that, having to be in, a space where you have to wear a mask all the time for your job. And, it's a lot. So I'm so glad that we have that resource available in town and that you all are doing that work. It's really, really great to hear all about it. And then kind of combining it with Robert's more statewide work around restaurants in general. It's an amazing time to kind of be, we were saying this earlier, kind of be in this line of work to try to improve things and bring out kind of the issues that have been swept under the rug for a long, long time.
Yeah. And that's what, like with what Robert's doing, like, you can't just tackle these problems from one, we can't just come in and say, hey, we're going to train your staff on mental health. Like, the owners need support too, and these other routes, and helping with the cost of food, or our lending library program that we're trying right now. Those takeout boxes are not cheap compared to your paper products, and getting those grants to help pay for those, to incentivize restaurants to participate in these other items. It helps in so many different ways. And it's there's so many factors to supporting individuals and restaurants and what goes into it. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, we're at 7:30, so I think if either of you have some closing thoughts to add on the topic, or any calls to action for folks that are watching, please feel free to share.
Yeah, all I have is, check us out at our website, intheweedsco.org, or follow us on Facebook and Instagram, all the advertising stuff. Our handle for Instagram is at intheweeds_co, and Facebook is just at intheweedsco. So we have some public announcements. We're mostly focused towards the staff, but I mean, it's still fun stuff to follow and get a little insider of what goes on within the industry, you know, the topics being discussed and whatnot. So, and support, you know, whether that's takeout or not. You know, these, like I said, we just had three restaurants shut down. One of them being the largest in town, who probably had 200 employees that might be out of work for the next week or two. So it's very uncertain times. Everybody's kind of on edge, and just be nice. We were saying, just be kind. Like, that's the biggest thing right now. We're all going through a lot. So.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Robert?
Yeah, I think be nice is about as simple as you can put it. Yeah, resilientrestaurants.org is our program's website, and we welcome the support of customers and community members. My Facebook group is probably largely guests and customers more than business owners. But yeah, I mean, the best thing you can do is to, you know, really make authentic connections with your favorite local restaurants when you're going out. And if you think they're a good fit for Resilient, let them know about us.
Awesome. Well,
So,
thank you both.
You know, I look forward to doing in-person workshops when we get past this barrier. Really look forward to doing more community face-to-face stuff. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. So do we. I think that's something we can all look forward to these days. But yes, thank you so much, both of you, for joining and sharing, you know, what you're so knowledgeable about with all of us. This is so helpful. And I think it helps all of us as a community treat each other a little bit better. So thank you for that. And yeah, I just wanted to say, to wrap up, thank you to everyone who's joined us for week 3. You know, Local First is so grateful to everyone that's been supporting our work with the local food system, all of the restaurants, the farmers. We've heard, you know, how excited everybody is to have a boost in business. So even just, you know, participating in this 1 week has had an impact. So thank you. And we also want to thank our sponsors, one of which is In the Weeds and one of which is Resilient Restaurants, as well as the Good Food Collective, Durango Land and Homes, Sante, Ride Responsible, Basin, and Clean Commute Week. So thank you all again for participating, and we will look forward to seeing you next week.
Yay.
Have a good one, everybody.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks.